So let me start with the backstory of the first book that I chose, the Tao Te Ching. The author, Lao Tzu, was a Chinese government head librarian. Back when librarians were expected to read all the books so that when someone came to the library to get information, the library could say, oh, that topic's in this book. So there was a lot of expectation on him to be able to be knowledgeable on pretty much every topic in the entire library. The story goes that when he retired, he decided to leave China, and at the border, he was approached by one of the guards who asked him to leave his knowledge. And in doing so, he wrote this book, and that's the story of how the Tao Te Ching came to be. Let me emphasize the fact that the story's truth or not, we don't know. But we do know that because of the fact that at the time, many of the topics, much of the knowledge that was in his head didn't have words in the language, it was ineffable. So he had to create the sentence structures using existing Chinese words to help describe something that is indescribable. So you may hear things when I'm reading this or when I explain it that may not make a whole lot of sense at the time. But I'll kind of summarize it when I get done because I have some notes on this passage. So ironically, my favorite passage is the first passage. It is, again, like I said, it's in Chinese, but the language is very, how should I say? It can be translated in many different ways. So this book has been translated in so many different ways into just English. There are some people who learn Chinese just to try to read it in the original Chinese, if that tells you how inspiring this book is for many people. So the first passage in the copy that I own is translated as such. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. The source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. Now, the first passage, I will be honest, whenever someone asks me my favorite quote, that is my favorite quote. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. It's basically expressing that to put a word, to define, to limit something that is as ineffable as the concept of the Tao, the life force, anything that, if it can be named, it's not truly the eternal name. And I cannot stress enough that that is, in many religions, that is a huge issue. The word awesome, in just 20, 30 years has gone from being only used to describe the eternal in the Christian faith, but now is just, everyday word because, well, who loves the turtles? And then another passage in there is the free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestation. When you want something so much that you can taste it, but you've never actually tasted it, can you really be sure that is what you're tasting? It's like a vegetarian, a lifelong vegetarian, trying to describe steak to somebody. They can smell it. They can see it. They can touch it. But if they haven't tasted it, do they know what meat actually tastes like? So you have to wonder. And that's obviously all by assuming that nobody has ever slipped them steak and, lied to them. That's a whole another subject. But that kind of gives you an idea of what they're trying to say there. And that's one of the things about this book, is it is very difficult to put to words some of the things that he was saying in the original Tao document, because there was no English, or I should say, there was no Chinese words that he could use to truly encompass what he was trying to express at the time. And even now, I mean, there's a reason why in the English language the word ineffable exists, because there is no words to describe something that's ineffable. That's the whole point, is it's ineffable. So it's one of those things, to be aware, to be knowledgeable about something doesn't mean you have to be able to put it to words. Sometimes you just have to know it. Also, albeit this is not an endorsement or anything, but if you want to know which version of the Tao Te Ching I'm reading, I will include that in there, because I do want to give the translator and author a little bit of honor and respect, because he did write this and I did not do the translation. So I want to make sure he gets credit for it. But I do recommend that if you're looking for books on the Tao Te Ching, definitely look at the different manuscripts. Just even with this one passage, there is a lot of different variations that exist. So if you're looking for one to have in your library or to read, look at the different translators, different editions, and just read that first passage just to kind of get an idea of which one feels like it, I guess you could say, speaks to you. Because it's not a long book, but it's a heavy book. It's very, very deep and intense, and if you're not comfortable with the verbiage, it can really make it a challenge to follow. I will be honest, my class that we read this in was very difficult because it was meditation and mystical experience. And about half my class were having a difficult time just with this first passage, because it is so... We are so, as a humanity, so used to being able to define and to limit things to help categorize and organize, that it was a challenge for these students to really follow the concept that you can't put a limit. You cannot define something that is indefinable. And so it's a very difficult, challenging topic. So I cannot stress enough that when you're looking for your own copy, make sure to read the first passage just to kind of get a feel if it speaks in a verbiage that is comfortable for you.